Our story starts with Yuya, a fat and ugly boy who is hated by everyone. Someday, while he was walking down the street, he finds three guys hitting on a high school girl. He asked them to stop, but got beaten instead. When the police arrived, the three guys ran away. Yuya left, despite his injuries, leaving the girl without knowing his name or thanking him. He gets home, and while lying on the ground, he remembers his miserable life as his parents and siblings hate him because of how he looks. Even in school he always gets bullied. But only his grandfather loved him, and now he lives alone in his house after he died. The next day, he gets bullied and beaten by school delinquents, and his siblings were happy to see him in this state. Because of this, he arrives late for his part-time job and got fired. Feeling broke and miserable, led him to take his anger on his reflection in the mirror, destroying it. But by coincidence he discovers a secret door. He gets into a hidden room full of strange things and remembers that his grandfather always got strange items from around the world. He finds a strange-looking door, and he opens it. Upon entering from the door, a hologram appears and tells him that he has entered another world, and he has gained a lot of skills, but his level is low. He discovers the house and finds that it was occupied by a sage, who died and put a magic spell to transfer the house ownership to the first one that entered through the door. He finds many rare and powerful weapons in the house, and by swinging them he learns the skill to use them. Suddenly a powerful bloody ogre came attacking, but the magic fence blocked its attack. Yuya tried to fight by throwing the spear, but the spear obliterated the ogre with one attack. Yuya leveled up to 100 after he defeated the ogre, and he took the rare items that dropped from it. Then he decided to go to sleep, but before leaving a hologram appeared telling him that he can change the dropped items into real money, and then a 1.5 million yen appeared from thin air. While Yuya was sleeping, his body started mutating. And in the morning he was a different person, as he was a handsome boy with a fit strong body. He didn't see himself or think about it too much, and continued discovering the other world. The next day at school everyone was staring at him, including his siblings, and they were shocked after they knew who he was. Yuya also was shocked of their reactions, and went to the bathroom to see himself in the mirror, and got shocked of how he changed. Later, while the others were trying to bully him again, a fancy car arrived and a beautiful girl comes out, and she was searching for Yuya. Kaori invited Yuya to enroll in her school, Osei Academy, which is a super elite high school. And her father will help his enrollment because he is the chairman of the board, and he wanted to thank him because he saved his daughter. Yuya was not sure of his ability to enroll in such an elite school, but the chairman convinced him to try this day in the academy because he chose him because of his personality. Later, Yuya got introduced to his class, and everyone was amazed of how handsome he looked. After class they circled him out of curiosity, but a hot guy called Ryo stopped them so that Yuya gets some space. Then Ryo introduced Yuya to his friend, Shingo. Later, at the end of the day the chairman asked Yuya about his opinion of the academy. Yuya loved the academy, especially how everyone is happy, and how they treated him like a normal human. And in the end he accepted the chairman's invitation to enroll into the academy. When Yuya got out of the chairman's office, he found Kaori waiting for him. She asked him to accompany her while shopping. Later Yuya treated her to a crepe and both of them start to get closer. Yuya went back to the other world wearing a full armor and started beating monsters again. But he noticed that his up-leveling now has become slow, so he decided to go outside the fence and discover more of the world. Suddenly he heard men screaming, and when he rushed he found corpses and a beautiful girl that was about to be killed by a powerful monster. Yuya fights back the monster and beats it and saves the girl. Then he found her unconscious, and suddenly guards start calling for her name, Lexia. Then Yuya quickly activates the stealth skill and moves away. He goes to a shopping mall and all the girls stare at him and he couldn't handle all the stares thinking that they are bad stares. Meanwhile, in the same shopping mall, there was a photography session of an advertisement about boyfriend and girlfriend shopping together. The problem was that the man called Sho, who will act as the boyfriend, is late for the shoot, and the photographer was made because they can't wait too much for him to appear. So he decided to look for a good-looking guy in the shopping mall to take the boyfriend role in the shoot. The photographer saw Yuya, and he asked him to take place in his shoot. Yuya got introduced to a beautiful girl called Mio, who will be the girlfriend, and they took many good photos together. Yuya was stiff around Mio, so the photographer told Mio to grab his hand and put her arms around his neck, but Yuya couldn't handle a beautiful girl like Mio, pressing her body into his, for the first time. Meanwhile, in the other world, Lexia, who was saved by Yuya, was thinking about him, and wanted to thank him for saving her life in the forest. Back to the photo shoot. While everyone was on break, Yuya and Mio started knowing each other better and became closer. Suddenly, Sho arrives late, and he was famous among the women because how handsome he is. He approaches Mio and slams her to the wall, annoying her by asking and pushing her too much to go drink with him. Mio refused all his offers and didn't seem happy when she saw him. When Yuya asked him to stop annoying her, Sho tried to punch him, but Yuya's reflex was so fast, and he instinctively grabbed him and flipped him to the ground. Sho was shocked because he was training boxing and was good at it. Then Hikaru showed Sho that they recorded how he got beaten by an amateur, and told him to say goodbye to his boxing sport and model work, as he will publish this video online, because Sho disrespected his work by calling it silly. Later, Hikaru asked Yuya to sign an exclusive contract with them and promised him that he will be happy with the income he will make. But Yuya refused politely because he is an amateur and maybe can't get the job done. While they were going home, Hikaru was mentioning how much good job Yuya would have achieved with his good look as a fashion model. Then he noticed that Mio started to have an interest in Yuya, and he started teasing her. In the other world, Lexia and her guards were fighting monsters in the dark forest, and when she was about to get attacked, Yuya saves her for the second time. Yuya defeats all the remaining monsters, leaving the guards shocked, then he heals the injured guards. Lexia approaches him, and she suddenly asks him to marry her, leaving everyone shocked. Yuya is shocked to hear that she's a princess, and second in line for the throne. They tell Yuya that they came looking for him, because Lexia wanted to thank him for saving her. She proposes that they start as friends. Hearing those words, Yuya remembers all the bullying he has suffered up until now. He accepts the arrangement, and sealed it with a soft handshake. Before they left, Owen told him a message from the king, who wants to express his gratitude to him in person. Yuya remembers that he has a golden week in the real world and asks them to wait a little longer. Meanwhile, a masked man is angry and frustrated when he receives a word of his operation to assassinate the princess failed. The masked man drops his mask, revealing his scarred face. He vowed that he will never forget what Lexia has done to him, and he will revenge himself. Later, the students have PA class, where they play soccer. While the girls scream, Yuya watches the match and is impressed by how good Ryu is. Kaide agrees and wonders why Yuya is not participating, but he tells her that his PA uniform is not ready yet. The two continue to watch the match. When Ryu passes the ball to Akira, who wants to shine like Ryu, he shoots but the ball goes astray towards Kaede. She screams, and suddenly Yuya kicks the ball from an impossible position and shoots it straight into the faraway goal. Everyone was shocked, even Ryu is confused by the movement he just witnessed. Yuya goes to Kaede to make sure that she's okay. At this point, she has fallen for him. While Yuya's class goes back to the indoor lesson, the school's main gate is knocked down by some delinquent spikers. They make their way straight to the girls surrounding and scaring them with their weapons. Yuya remembered that this group is which Araki is a member of, who was always bullying him before. Yuya sees him with his younger siblings. Kaori stands up to them, asking what they are doing at the school. The delinquents ask Yuya's siblings if she's their target, and they confirm it, revealing that they are doing this out of spite that she allowed their older brother to attend the school while looking down on them. Yuya gets up immediately and heads for the door. The class starts to panic when he opens and jumps from the window, as they are on the 4th floor. He lands smoothly, which catches the attention of everyone, and his classmates are surprised to see him without any broken bones. Yuya dashes to save Kaori, and then Araki blocks his way, attacking him, but he dashes past him. A big sumo wrestler guy steps forward. He charges towards Yuya, but he stops him with one hand and pushes him into a bike. After witnessing their big guy getting tossed like a pizza dough in the air, they back off from Kaori. As Yuya walks over to make sure she's unharmed, the head of the gang decides to get involved by attacking with his bike. But Yuya manages to evade all of his strikes, making him eventually collide to the wall, and the bike exploded. The police make it to the school and arrest the delinquents. Meanwhile, his younger brother starts to badmouth the Red Ogres for not doing their job. This annoys their leader, who holds him by the neck, choking him while blaming him for their defeat. The sister pleads for him to let go, but he kicks her away, and there is no one stopping him. Yuya's brother pleads for someone to help him, and then Yuya comes in and calmly forces the gangster to leave his brother. The leader dashes toward Yuya to attack him, but a piercing stare from Yuya crushes his fighting spirit, as he knows who is the real alpha here. After making his way into the forest and defeating a few monsters, he calls it a day. While returning home, his attention is drawn by a little squeal. He rushes to the sound source, and finds a level 600 king orc beating a little pup. Yuya then thinks on what his grandfather would do in this situation, and then he gathers his courage and summons his spear. He finds that the spear was more than enough to finish the fight before it even started. Yuya offered a healing potion to the damaged animal, but it refuses to let its guard down until it passes out due to its injuries. Yuya revives the pup back to full health with the healing potion. The animal wakes up and takes an instant liking to Yuya, and then Yuya learns that the pup is an orphan black Finra, which has significant power and high intelligence with the ability to understand human speech. Now that they are a unit, he settles on the name Knight for the black Fenrir, which seems to get it excited. He takes Knight with him to the real world, and leave it in the house before making his way to school. Yuya later returns home. He shows Knight the new collar that he handpicked with Kaide for him. Yuya takes him out for a walk during the beautiful sunset in the park. Yuya later bumps into Kaori, who is also out for a walk. He introduces Knight to her, and the two seem to be fond of each other. Suddenly, a scream from a lady nearby interrupts them, as a thief has snatched her purse. Yuya commands Knight to chase him and bring the man alive. Then Knight drags the criminal on the ground back to Yuya, despite his small body. Yuya asks from Kaori to call the police, then after realizing that he will be arrested, the thief breaks free from Knight's hold, ripping his jacket and dashing with a knife towards Kaori. Yuya shows how a Sigma he is by stopping the attack with one hand, while proceeding and making pizza dough out of the man and apprehending him. Yuya and Knight later make their way into the woods, with the intention of conquering a certain area, so that they can proceed further into the deepest parts of the forest. And suddenly they come across a deer with two different horns, that has a power level of 630, while possessing an absurd amount of magical power. Despite Yuya is in stealth mode, the deer can sense his presence. Then the deer charges at them after giving his war cry. They evade its attack, and Yuya lets Knight go for an opening, but the deer blocks it with the red horn. The monster repels him with a fiery blast, and then follows up with an incredible magical beam attack. Yuya commands Knight to create an opening for him to land the final blow, and Knight goes forth to execute the plan, while avoiding the large-scale attack from the deer. Knight succeeds in injuring the deer, giving Yuya the opening that he wished to finish the deer off. They enter the woods the next day, and they face a porcupine-looking like monster, with fast and agile movements. It gives them a hard time, but Yuya sees that its movements have become sloppy, so he baits it to crash into a rock before ending it in a tag team effort with Knight. Before they leave the area, the rock in front of them crumbles, to reveal a tunnel, which they take the pleasure of exploring. Knight runs off to explore first, and when Yuya pulls closer he is met with a corpse. But before he can investigate, Knight draws his attention to a book titled The Book of the Sage. Yuya discovers that the writer of this book is the sage that owns the house in the dark forest. Upon reading the book, the sage reveals that he had mastered everything in the world, from magic and martial arts, to cooking and singing. Even the gods invited him to join them in heavens, but he declined their invitation. The sage advises Yuya to seek his allies at his own pace. And then he also gives him the chance to wish for one thing, and the sage will provide the knowledge in the book. Yuya wished to know about magic, and then the book starts glowing, and then the sage reveals that he has filled the book with everything he knows of magical theory. The sage decides to bestow his magical pathways upon Yuya, and it happens to be a very valuable pathways in this world, so it would be a waste to let them disappear. Back in the house, Yuya begins reading the book to understand the principles of magic, and then he feels the magic circulating through his body, and then he found that Knight also felt the magic circulating through his own body. He goes outside to try, and then he raises his hand and made a water ball. He looks over and sees that Knight has also succeeded in making his own water ball from the first try. Yuya praises him, before they shoot the water balls at a nearby tree, penetrating it and destroying the other trees behind, like an armor-piercing shell, which was a shock to them. Meanwhile, Owen has an audience with the king. As he gives his report on the trip to the dark forest, he tells the king about meeting Yuya and delivering his message to him, but he lets it slip that Lexia proposed to Yuya in the process. The king signals one of his servants to give him his sword before rampaging in his throne room. He even destroys the statues. The king accuses Yuya of seducing his young princess. They decided to meet at the mall after school, and everyone is shocked by the fact that Kaori joined them, as she is the daughter of the chairman. Ryu later suggests that they make their way to the 7th floor, which is a cafe to have some tea and snacks. However, the ladies want to have some girls' time in the 13th floor, which is for girls' fashion. They promise them to join after finishing shopping. The guys decide to take the lead on the hot drinks as they arrive at the cafe. Meanwhile, back at the arcade, one of the machines has a broken wire and begins to spark. Then the boys got interrupted by the fire alarm, as the fire outbroke on the 10th floor. The guys realize that the outbreak is at the arcade floor that they were just at. Despite the building is being evacuated, they head over to the stairs since the girls are still trapped up in the burning floors. Yuya dashes past the staff and heads to the upper levels. He reaches the floor where the fire originated, and he notices that the sprinklers are ineffective in extinguishing the flames. Yuya feels like he has no other option than to use magic. He covers his whole body with water and dashes through the flames. Yuya catches her before she hits the ground and confirms that the other 2 girls are also safe. Yuya carries all 3 girls and covers their bodies with his magic water, so that they don't get hurt while escaping the flames. Unfortunately, the fire intensifies and he's not sure if his magic can hold out, and then he decides to create his path down, by using his strength to break his way through the multiple floors. Yuya assures everyone that they are fine and everything is taken care of. But the firefighters scold him for his reckless actions and he apologizes. Kaori's father thanks Yuya for saving his daughter's life for the 2nd time. Meanwhile, in the other world, a sacred talking rabbit named Yasagi is evading the attacks of a mysterious girl that has corrupted aura. The rabbit states that the girl is using the techniques of the divine archer. The girl reveals her goal to destroy the whole world, because from her perspective, it can't be saved and not worth protecting. She vanishes while telling the rabbit that she will return again. The rabbit knows that now he must find someone to pass on his kicking techniques, as he is the deity of kicks, so that they can help stopping this dangerous girl from destroying the world. Yuya remembers the sage's explanation on how magic is the realization of imagination. He puts that into practice and started imagining a place in the forest. And then to his surprise he opens a portal that leads directly to the place he imagined. Suddenly Knight dashes off after something caught his attention. They proceed forward and they find an injured girl, which was surrounded by several higher-level goblins. The girl puts up decent resistance as she counters the leader's attacks, even taking his arm in the process. And she uses her strings to block the assault from 3 lackeys. But it leaves her open to a mighty kick from the goblin leader, which sends her flying and then crashing into a tree. She loses her consciousness before the monster can finish her off, but Yuya can't help himself not interfering and finishes the leader off. Yuya and Knight later find that they are surrounded by a staggering number of high-level goblins. And when the goblins launch their attack on them, Yuya pulls out a powerful whip, which he uses to restrain and squeeze the life out of the goblins. He wonders what to do with the girl and decides to bring her to the house to help tending to her wounds, but Knight didn't agree with his plan. Suddenly the girl gains consciousness and wakes up, and she requests Yuya to unhand her while kicking and screaming. Yuya offers her some cure-all juice. He tells her that it will heal her wounds if she drinks it. She takes the risk and just decides to drink it, and then all her wounds healed in an instant. The girl is amazed and she wonders who Yuya is. Luna wonders what happened to the goblins and Yuya tells her that he and Knight finished them all off. She is impressed with their strength and expresses her gratitude for saving her life, as she is completely filthy and sweaty from all the running around. She looks for a river to wash up, but Yuya offers her his portable bath. While she is bathing in peace inside the veiled bath, Yuya tells her that he acquired it from a crystal deer after finishing it off. She gets shocked after hearing that he can defeat such a legendary monster and understands how he can casually train in the dark region. Over the coming days, they venture deeper into the forest as they fight more goblins. They all got stronger in the process, and this is demonstrated when they team up to easily defeat a horde of high-level goblins. Later Yuya relaxes in the bath with Knight while wondering why Luna allowed him to use the bath first. His questions are answered when she tells him that she wanted them to use it together since it's their last day. Yuya starts to panic as she enters the path. He prepares to leave so that she can wash alone, but she hugs him from behind, preventing him from leaving. She expresses her gratitude for the way he has accommodated and nurtured her to get stronger, and it saved her. This confuses Yuya and she explains that although it was a short while, Yuya showed her the brighter side of the world, and she will treasure the time they have spent together. She offers to wash his back, but when Yuya turns around to talk to her, he found that her towel has fallen and Luna gets embarrassed. The next day, the classes are in their buses as they make their way to the field trip. They are to survive one night and 2 days in the wilderness, and in regards to the food, they will be given only rice. But they are to feed themselves from the wilderness as the mountain has an abundance of mushrooms and fish in the river. The fishing team find the river is crowded and all the good fishing spots are taken. Yuya relies on his sensor abilities to find a hidden place that has plenty of fish but are in shallow water. He rolls his pants and takes his bucket inside the water, and then put the training he learned from Luna into practice, to anticipate the fish movements, and catches them by hand. Everyone is shocked after seeing his skills in catching fish. Later Kaede asked him to stop, as he got carried away and caught too many fish. Meanwhile, back in the fantasy world, Luna confirms that her skills are now sharper, after she beheaded some dolls smoothly. It is revealed that Luna has lived as an assassin since she was a child. Later that night, the group assembles around Yuya as he channels his inner chef to create a delectable-looking campfire feast. After taking a taste, they halt and react with awe. When an overjoyed Sawada and the other teachers pass by, they take a bite and join the first three in pausing. She notes that since everyone at the school often consumes meals cooked by excellent chefs, Yuya's culinary skills must be particularly exceptional for this to stand out in such a way. Yuya uses his teleportation ability to travel back to his home, where he meets Knight, who was admiring the night sky. He then prepares dinner and spends some time with him. The students are given the opportunity to take a bath, and while the boys change, they all gasp at Yuya's amazingly shredded figure. Meanwhile, in the women's restroom, Rin makes perfect stress-relieving balls from Kaidei's enormous melons. This causes them to mention that Yuya's heart is facing more competition with Miss Sawada's melons joining it. This makes Kaori anxious because she also likes him. As the groups move farther into the woods, they begin to question if some mushrooms are safe to eat. Yuya realizes that Akira is once more absent-minded and walks over to investigate what is causing him to be in such a state. Yuya looks to see shattered trees and claw prints all around them, signs of a bear staking its territory. The girls start to flee as the bear emerges just as the beast's eyes sparkle in the darkness. When they return to the camp running, everyone turns to see them with concern in their eyes. Sawada stumbles over as they dash for safety, and Yuya notices this and turns around as the bear regains consciousness and resumes its pursuit. Fortunately, Yuya arrives just in time, and the strike is stopped a few centimeters from her face. With its other hand, the bear swings, but Yuya dodges and starts to hold it off like a professional wrestler. To everyone's surprise, he takes up the beast and suplexes it, which immediately knocks out the bear. Kaori interrupts to explain what they are going to do about the bear. She says that the beast will act as a guard dog for the vicinity and the establishment. Yuya travels back to the other world as the day of the meeting with the king approaches. As they get ready, he and Knight stumble across a group of red ogres that appear to be traveling in the direction of Princess Lexia's party. They come out of stealth mode, ambush the unit, and kill most of its members. The boss blocks Yuya's spear attack and hurls it back at him. Yuya pulled out a large sledgehammer and struck it. After the creature puts up some fight, the pressure from the weapon eventually killed the monster. When the princess and her attendants arrive, Lexia emerges to welcome him as they formally express their happiness that he accepted their offer. They are getting ready to leave for the kingdom when Knight notices a threat and saves the princess from a falling tree. Yuya then smashes the tree before it can crush anybody else. The youngster sees the wires which made the tree fall, which boggles him. He proceeds to follow the thread and eventually finds the culprit, whom he knocks out before they can respond. Luna's mask slips off, and Yuya is startled to realize who it is. When the princess catches up with him, he reveals that he is aware of her assassin, but he wants to bring her to his house for healing, so that he may learn what motivated her attack, since he thinks she is not an evil individual. As she also is curious about their connection, Lexia gives him permission. Yuya decides to teleport them back home while they make their way through the wilderness. After Yuya explains everything to Lexia, she finally understands the relationship between him and Luna. But the thing that bothers her the most is that Yuya used a magic she deems as problematic. Yuya tells her about the teleportation magic he used, and she tells him never to use such magic again, since teleportation magic is a legend within the world. It turns out that Luna was doing a terrible job at pretending to be knocked out, so Lexia snuffed out her play and told her to wake up. Luna told them her story, into what led her to become an assassin, and would later come to be known as the Headhunter. This revelation surprised Lexia but not Knight, since he had known that Luna was bad news. After telling her story, she informs them to do with her what they please. Lexia interrupts and offers her solution to save Luna. She suggests that Luna serve as her personal guard. In the next day, Owen and his squad catch their breath under shade, and after seeing that Lexia is alive and well, he sprints over with joy and excitement that she is unharmed. And after noticing Luna, he asks who she is. And Yuya struggles to give an answer, but Lexia, with her loose lips, blurts out that Luna is the one who tried to assassinate her. However, she has agreed to work as her guard. This takes them all by surprise, and at this moment, Luna knew that the princess wasn't a sharp person. Owen and the knights draw their sword to apprehend the assassin, but the princess instructs for them to let her go. Owen shows Yuya the path to take, if he is ever free to visit the kingdom. Then they leave and Luna dismounts from the horse, before running over to Yuya, kissing on the cheek. She thanks him for everything he has done for her, and Lexia sees this and orders Owen to stop the carriage so that she kiss Yuya goodbye, but he ignores her demands. Later, Yuya finds a good bond of water and decides to take a bath with Knight in the open air. But shocking to him, they are joined by a cute boar-looking creature. It waves to him, which makes Yuya check its stats. It is known as Emoju, and it has already been tamed by him. He picks it up and names it Akatsuki, based on its color as of a sunset orange rays. He appraises Akatsuki and sees that he has a skill called Holy Ground. This skill refreshes the health and magic to an extreme level. Later in school, Teacher Sawada stands in front of the class to introduce the next competition, which will be a series of ball games. The first game is football, and the PE teacher explains the proceedings and announces the teams. Yuya puts on some gloves and proclaims to be the keeper, since he doesn't know the rules very well. The match starts and a player on Yuya's team blitzes through the entire opposition before scoring a goal. On the other hand, Rin watches the game and sees an opportunity to distract the males on the opposition team. She uses the power of Kai's assets and asks her to jump up. Her weapons of mass distraction play with the minds of the opposition, however, this has the reverse reaction, as it boosted the morale of the opposing team members. Akira takes the ball and moves past everyone before shooting for the net. Despite the ball was shot into the top corner, Yuya moves fast and stops the ball from entering the net. This catches the opposition by surprise, as it looked like Yuya teleported. Yuya is unsure on what to do with the ball, so Ryu tells him to throw the ball as hard and far as possible. After hearing this, he uses all his strength and launches the ball, which goes straight into the opposition's net. Yuya wants to know if that counts as a point, but everyone is more surprised and concerned that he is able to throw a ball through all this distance. As Yuya walks home from school with his friends, their attention is drawn by a gentleman who calls for Yuya, but before the man can finish his talk, his boss interrupts and invites Yuya to the entertainment industry, but he rejects the offer. Later on, Yuya returns to the fantasy world and continues his exploration with Knight and Akatsuki. And while walking through the woodlands, he encounters an odd-looking tree. He finds the stem is incredibly solid, almost like steel. As he pushing forward, he turns around and sees a huge boar. The boar dashes and hurts Yuya. He knows that he stands no chance against this beast. Suddenly, a voice from the distance is heard and a strong attack saves Yuya. Yuya spots a white rabbit and gets surprised when the rabbit talks. Then the boar recovers and charges, but the rabbit pulls a move that destroys the boar, along with most of the hard black trees, and he finds potential in Yuya and Knight. Usagi then demonstrates how it is done, and kicks through 4 trees without a sweat. He trains Yuya until he is able to bring down one of those hard black trees. And then they spar until Usagi reveals that he has chosen Yuya as his successor. They protect the world from a threat known as the Vile, and it is the responsibility of the Divine to protect all the living things on the planet. They come to an agreement to benefit from each other, as Yuya will teach him magic. Usagi resumes their training by letting Yuya go up against the King Mithril Boar, which is far superior to the normal Mithril Boar. Yuya struggles at first, but then defeats it with his spear. Then Usagi calls it a day and heads home. Later, as he gets ready to participate in his ping-pong match, the director is there with her photographers to capture a perfect picture of him. His opponent arrives and he is the national tournament's undisputed champion. The game starts and the man scores a point against Yuya. But on the second serve, Yuya returns the ball with tremendous force that made the ball pierces through the table, and after sawing this, he withdraws from that event. After an eventful day, he walks home with Kaori, who asks him to close his eyes, and kisses him on the cheek in the middle of the street without him feeling the kiss. Elsewhere in the fantasy world, Usagi is fighting one of the Vile, and she is shocked to see that he can use magic. But after Usagi tells her that Yuya taught him magic, she declares that she will kill Yuya first, as she deems him a dangerous threat, and then she withdrew from the fight. In the following day, Kaori happens to be at Yuya's house as they study together. The girl has found herself in the hidden room. As she steps towards the door of the other world, Yuya calls to her, which startles her, and after some hesitation, he informs her about the door leading to another world. He further explains that this world has magic and he shows it to her. He tells her about Knight and Akatsuki and their species. Kaori informs him that she would like to see more of this world, but Yuya tells her about the monsters in the forest. But he promises her that he will take her out another time. Meanwhile, in the capital, Lexia returns and announces her arrival to her father. The king asks Owen about Yuya, as he was supposed to come with them. Then he explains to the king what happened. the king notices Luna and asks if she has anything to do with what happened. She boldly confesses to the king about her assassination mission, so the king decides to put her to death with his hands. He dashes in an instant, ready to cut her, but he stopped in his tracks. The king is impressed that she perceived his sword's special trait. She stopped the king's arms, rather than blocking the blade, because she knew the sword, and how it can easily cut through anything which tries to stop it. Lexia interrupts and gets angry at her father, and complains about his behavior. Hearing these words, he steps down immediately, and recognizes Luna as Lexia's guard. The masked prince gets a report that the headhunter failed her mission, due to someone that lives in the darkest regions. He presents his subordinate with a magic sealing barrier. Once it has been activated, no magic can be used within its bounds. Later, the school had a 3-day holiday, and this gives time for Yuya to go to the royal palace. In the way, he shoots down a sleep sheep, and one of its dropped items is a paradise bedding. He take it and make their way into town. They reach the palace, where they are received by Owen. He takes them straight to the king's hall, which surprises him. Yuya nervously walks towards the king. The king begins to confront Yuya about seducing his daughter into marriage. This gets him in a panic, and when the king complains that he didn't bring a gift for his daughter, Yuya apologizes for that and pulls out the paradise bedding. Lexia starts to get excited, as she calls Yuya bold. And the king gets so angry that he descends with his blade in his hand. Owen intercepts and explains to the king that Yuya doesn't know their customs. It's revealed that in this kingdom, giving bedding to someone means proposing to that person. The king draws his blade, ready to send Yuya to the other world. Suddenly, they got raided by the assassins, and they used the magic sealing barrier, but Yuya and his pets knocked them out. Luna notices that Yuya got stronger again, and the king watches while annoyed, as Lexia hugs Yuya for saving her again. Owen investigates to find clues as to who was behind the attack. Then he finds Rigger's crest, which is the masked prince. Yuya goes to the princess's room to make sure she is fine, but she emerges out to meet him outside. Then she asks him if he would like to take a look around the royal capital. Later, Yuya notices the Adventurers Guild, and Luna suggests that they go inside and sign up to be an adventurer. Then she shows him a crystal ball that is used to measure magic level. The ball works by changing color based on the volume of magic energy. Then Luna places her hand, and it turns yellow. Then Yuya puts his hand, and his magic energy shatters the crystal into pieces, right before everyone's eyes. Later, the receptionist gives them the cards, and tells him of what he needs to know about engaging in quests. Later, the trio head out for their first quest, which happens to be an herb collection. Suddenly, Owen rushes over to them and informs that they have found Prince Rhaegar's location. They arrive at the location, and Yuya is surprised by how isolated it is. One of the soldiers opens the door, and he is greeted with a flying knife, and inside the building, Rhaegar has managed to grab a soldier from the scouting unit. Yuya orders Night to attack, which allows the hostage to escape. The prince gets surrounded, and Owen informs him that it is over. He points his blade to himself, as he threatens to end his life. He states that he will not be missed anyway, and after hearing this, Yuya remembers his old self. He dashes over to him and grabs his hand, and the prince attacks Yuya, but he dodges. Suddenly, the mysterious girl appears before the prince, and she concludes that he has failed, and he is no longer needed. She was helping him attain the throne, because she planned to make him start wars. She prepares to end him, and Owen rushes in to stop the attack, but an arrow hits his blade, halting his assault. She then turns her attention to the guards, as she fires a hail of arrows at them. Yuya blocks her attack, and Owen addresses him by name. The girl reveals her intention to exterminate Yuya, but that would require the power of the vial, and she has depleted her stamina. She retreats and Yuya is left wondering who is this girl. In the throne room, the prince demands to be freed, and the king is extremely disappointed in him. His demands led to the tearing of his clothes, revealing all the scars and injuries on his body. When Prince Rhaegar notices the king and Lexia averted their eyes from him, he gets angry and reveals that he became like this because he got caught up in Lexia's magic when she lost control of it. Rhaegar demands that they go on with the punishment and kill him quickly. Yuya asks for permission to speak, but the king asks him to stay out of this, since he is an outsider. Yuya insists, saying that he only wants to try something out. He takes the cure-all medicine from his item box, and he makes the prince drink it by force. Suddenly, all his wounds and scars are healed, and return back to normal. Everyone is shocked from the effects of the medicine, and the prince walks to a mirror and is also shocked to see his scars disappeared. The prince understands that this does not mean that he would avoid a death sentence. Then Lexia states that she forgives him for attempting to assassinate her, and she doesn't demand him to be punished. Later on, the prince thanks Yuya for saving him, and this eventually led to the discussion of Yuya's reward. The prince suggests a suitable reward to the king, and that to award all the land seized from Rhaegar to Yuya, and to be given the title Lord Knight. Yuya hurries to train in the forest, accompanied by Knight and Akatsuki. He seems determined to fight against the vile girl, but while they train, Knight senses a presence, and they get attacked by the girl, as she had found them. Yuya asks her why she is attacking them, and in response she states that he is a threat that could interfere with her plans of revenge. Then she launches a surprise attack on him, which he fortunately dodges. Meanwhile, Kaori arrives at Yuya's door, and after getting no response, she decides to go in, since Yuya forgot to close the door. She heads to the other world and then to the forest, despite knowing that there are monsters in the forest. She hears a loud noise in the distance, and it was from the intense battle between Yuya and the evil girl. Unfortunately, Yuya gets trapped in a bad spot, and the girl attempts to finish him off. Just as she shoots the arrow at him, Master Usagi arrives and deflects the arrow. He apologizes for coming late, revealing that he was investigating the girl, and then calls her by her name, which is Yuri. Then he reveals that she is the successor of the divine archer, who was slain by the humans, and she is doing this to avenge her master. She isn't interested in hearing what he say, and attacks them. Together with Knight, Usagi delivers a delicate blow that immobilizes her for a moment. However, she channels the power of the vial, making her a powerful vial god. As she intends to attack them, suddenly Akatsuki gets out from under the stealth sheet and activates his holy skill. This skill cancels the effect of the power of the vial, which weakens the girl to the point that Yuya can pull her power plug out. He assures him that the girl won't be able to use the power of the vial again, and then he leaves Yuya to deal with her. She eventually wakes up, and she is more calm and reasonable to talk with. On the other hand, Yuya finally gets the chance to talk to Kaori. He tries telling her about his life in this new world, assuming she would see him differently, but she states that she sees him the same way as she has always seen him from the first day he saved her, and this leaves him speechless. Later on, Kaori got introduced to Princess Lexia and Luna, and they took a path together and became friends. On the other hand, Yuri went to Yuya's world and enrolled in Yusei Academy, and every student was amazed at her beauty. And that's the end of the anime. Please tell me your opinion, and like the video. Take care, and stay tuned for the next anime recap.